Faith is something that everyone says is essential, but do we really understand its importance? In a world where logic and concrete evidence seem to reign supreme, believing in the invisible can seem challenging, to say the least. But think about it. Who has never found themselves in a situation where there seemed to be no answers, where problems only grew, and the solutions seemed far away? Faith is what allows those who believe to keep walking, even without seeing the ground ahead. It is what fuels hope when everything around them tells them it is time to give up. And here comes something surprising. Faith, contrary to what many people think, is not limited to an abstract feeling. It is a solid foundation, proof that, even without seeing, there is a certainty in those who trust that God has greater plans. How many times have we faced moments of pure anguish and, even without understanding how, managed to move forward? This is faith in action, and those who learn to use it understand that it is a bridge to a greater purpose, which goes far beyond what we can imagine. Today, more than ever, we need this invisible force that sustains us. Faith is like a muscle that needs to be exercised. The more we practice it, the stronger it becomes. So, throughout this journey, we will see the real impact of living with faith, even when evidence seems absent. Prepare to understand the power of this invisible fuel and how it transforms lives. When we talk about faith, many may think that it is a bet without guarantees, but it is exactly the opposite. Faith is the certainty of what is expected, the conviction of things that we cannot yet see. Imagine that, like a farmer, someone plants a seed in the ground. He does not yet see the fruit, but believes in the harvest that is to come. It is this confidence that moves us towards what God wants to do in our lives. With this perspective, even without seeing it, we begin to live as if the miracle were already real. This certainty that something good is coming does not depend on visible circumstances, but rather on trust in God's greater purpose. In moments of doubt, such as when facing a challenging situation, faith becomes a shield against fear. After all, how many times in history have great achievements come from people who dared to believe before even seeing the result? It is this type of certainty that fuels our hope and makes us walk more lightly. By developing this unshakable faith, the individual learns to transform anxiety into serenity. A practical example is to replace thoughts of worry with statements of trust in God, such as God is in control or everything works together for the good. In this way, life becomes more peaceful and doubts diminish, making room for seeing more and more of God's plan. Faith, after all, is the fuel that takes us to the destiny that God has set, even if the path still seems hidden. A person's life is a reflection of what they believe, because beliefs shape every decision and attitude. Those who live by believing in God's goodness and purpose, for example, have a more optimistic attitude and see difficulties as stepping stones, not barriers. This confidence transforms the way they see the world around them, because what they believe inside inevitably reflects on the outside. When someone lives according to a solid faith, the world often responds in an equally positive way. Imagine someone who, even in times of crisis, remains confident, believing that God has a greater purpose in everything that happens. This person is no longer shaken by news of problems because they trust in the greater good. With each obstacle, they learn to develop a vision of hope, which is not just utopia, but a reality that lives within them. Their faith is strengthened, and as a result, their life itself becomes a mirror of this trust in God. Those who seek to live with faith also attract wisdom to deal with daily challenges. Often, simple actions, such as practicing gratitude and being careful with the words you say to yourself, help to strengthen your spirit and bring peace. Saying phrases like, "I trust in God's plans," or "everything happens for my good" may seem simple, but it generates enormous inner strength. And so, this daily exercise of faith and trust transforms your life, opening a path of possibilities that only those who believe can experience. There are times in life when circumstances seem to be all that exists, but those who have faith know how to look beyond that. Seeing with spiritual eyes means perceiving what God is doing behind the scenes, even when everything around us seems to be the opposite. It is like someone who looks at a storm and, instead of seeing chaos, sees rain that nourishes and brings life. This vision of faith is one of the most powerful tools for those who seek to keep hope alive. In difficult situations, seeing beyond what is visible is a constant exercise in trust. Imagine a person who has lost a job. The immediate scenario may be discouraging, but with spiritual eyes, they can see that this can open doors to something greater. Trust in God acts as a lens that reveals new opportunities, and wisdom helps to see each detail from a transformative perspective. With each step, this spiritual vision feeds a faith that keeps one's spirits up even in the most challenging moments. Having the spiritual vision also means refusing to limit one's life to appearances. How many times have obstacles turned out to be just a part of something great that God was preparing? When someone chooses to see with faith, the world changes. Small signs, a word of hope, a new idea can emerge as divine answers. And so, little by little, spiritual eyes become a compass for the destiny that God has designed, preparing the way for the next journey. In difficult times, the attitude of praise becomes a real differentiator. Praising God in the midst of challenges is like turning on a light in the midst of darkness, attracting His presence and opening space for hope. It is easy to praise when everything is going well, but the true power lies in maintaining this positive attitude in difficult times. Those who choose praise, instead of grumbling, elevate their spirit and become a channel for God to work, even when circumstances are adverse. Grumbling, on the other hand, is like a slow poison that corrodes peace and drives away the divine presence. People who constantly complain about their difficulties end up focusing more on the problems than on possible solutions. Therefore, learning to replace complaints with words of gratitude is an act of wisdom. When someone thanks God for what they have, even in the midst of chaos, they open a door to receive even more. A practical tip is to keep a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things for which they are grateful every day. This simple act can change the energy of an entire day. By choosing to praise, even without seeing an immediate solution, the person shows that they trust in something greater. This attitude, more than a religious practice, is a choice that brings peace and strengthens faith. Praising, in essence, is a way of declaring that trust in God is above any problem, which ends up opening up a huge space for divine action. And when this practice becomes part of the routine, it paves the way for seeing life with different eyes, ready to see the next miracle. In difficult times, there is a special power in those who can speak words of hope. Prophesying is not only about predicting the future, but also about declaring what we believe God can do, even in chaos. Like the ancient prophets who brought messages of comfort in the midst of crisis, today we also need to be bearers of good news. With each word of hope, it is as if we light a flame that illuminates the darkness around us, showing that, with faith, it is possible to overcome any adversity. Imagine someone who, when faced with problems, chooses not to give in to discouragement, but to affirm that something good is coming. This attitude is a way of strengthening one's own faith and infecting others around them. By prophesying that better times are coming, the person invites those who listen to him or her to also believe in God's action. He or she becomes a reference of hope, transforming environments and inspiring confidence that, with faith, everyone can overcome difficulties. A useful practice is to say to yourself, "This will pass. God is with me." Furthermore, prophesying hope is a way of getting closer to God's purpose, which is to bring good to all. Each phrase of confidence thrown into the wind becomes a seed planted in the heart of the listener, producing fruits of peace and optimism. By doing this, one learns to value the power of one's own words and the importance of spreading faith. This exercise of strengthening hope not only benefits others, but prepares one's own heart to see life with renewed eyes, open to the next challenge that comes. Obedience to God is like a road that leads to spiritual growth and opens doors to blessings that faith alone has not yet achieved. When someone chooses to follow divine teachings, even without understanding all the reasons, they demonstrate a trust that goes beyond human logic. This surrender, instead of limiting, expands possibilities. Thus, the person grows spiritually, as if learning with each step to trust a guide who knows the way far beyond what the eyes can see. A practical example of this growth is in small daily choices that reflect obedience and faith. It could be forgiving those who have hurt us, loving those who do not deserve it, or helping someone without expecting anything in return. These are attitudes that, although simple, reveal how much one is willing to follow what God guides, even if the heart hesitates. Each act of obedience is a step towards a fuller life, guided by principles that, little by little, shape the character of those who believe in the power of God. Over time, obedience brings wisdom that enriches the life of those who practice it, generating a deeper understanding of God's plans. When someone commits themselves to this path, they begin to notice that blessings flow in unexpected ways, sometimes far beyond what they imagined. This is how faith and obedience, together, strengthen the spirit and prepare the ground for new journeys. And, in this process, trust in God grows, revealing the next level of the spiritual journey. Now that you understand the power of faith, the big question is, how can you bring all of this into your life? Think about all the times when doubt tried to take the place of trust, when fear spoke louder than hope. How about starting to do things differently? Instead of just waiting for things to get better, start acting with faith. Face your day with courage, believing that God is by your side, guiding each step. So, are you ready to test the strength that you have within you? Reflect. What would change in your life if you were certain that, even without seeing it, everything is being prepared for your good? Take the first step, no matter how small, and start acting today like someone who trusts. Share this message, inspire others, and subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of learning and growth in faith. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Turn on notifications so you never miss content like this. Let's go together on this journey of faith, hope, and transformation.